A billionaire CEO visiting a dying suburban mall to evaluate it for demolition witnesses a terrified mother being lifted off the ground by her throat in front of dozens of silent shoppers. What happens next doesn't just stop an assault, it sparks a movement that transforms an entire community and the woman he saves. She ends up changing his life just as much at 5:12 a.m. before the sun even considers rising. Maya Thompson is already waken up because she wants to babe you because anxiety doesn't sleep. She lies still for a moment in her small two-bedroom apartment, staring at the faint crack in the ceiling above her bed. The radiator clicks, the hallway light outside flickers somewhere in the distance. A siren wails and fades beside her, on the other side of the thin wall. Her 6-year-old son Eli is breathing softly. That sound is everything. Maya carefully rolls out of bed, her body stiff from yesterday's double shift. She checks her phone immediately. No missed calls, no unknown numbers, no violations. For a brief second, relief. Donnell hasn't tried anything overnight, but the restraining order folded in her purse feels more like paper than protection. By 5:30 a.m., she's in the kitchen packing Ellie's lunch: peanut butter sandwich, apple slices, a juice box bought with exact change. She writes him a tiny note on a sticky pad. Be brave, be kind, I love you more than all the stars, Mom. She does this every day, not because he needs it, because she does. At 6:15, Eli shuffles in wearing superhero pajamas. Is today a good day? He asks. Maya kneels in front of him and smooths his curls. Every day we're together is a good day, and she means it. But the truth, every day is also a calculation. Due in 8 days, electric bill overdue, boutique sales down 18%. Second job waitressing tonight. Maya works at Lila's Closet, a boutique tucked between a shuttered electronics store and a nail salon that hasn't replaced its broken neon sign in years. The mall used to hum with energy in the early 2000s. Now at echo-esvacant storefronts, discount racks, flickering lights. Still, Maya treats every shift like it matters because it does arrives early and rearranges the front display with the care of an artist. She pairs a clearance blazer with a vintage scarf someone donated. She steams every wrinkle. She adjusts the lighting. She has an eye for beauty, flashy beauty, quite transformations. Alvarez, the elderly woman who owns the boutique, watches from behind the counter. You make this place look like Fifth Avenue, she says. Maya smiles. It deserves to feel alive. What Mrs. Alvarez doesn't know is that Maya sketches designs at night when Eli is asleep. She dreams of expanding the shop, of creating affordable fashion lines for women rebuilding their lives, women who can't afford to feel invisible, women like her, because once she had felt invisible when Daniel first grabbed her arm too tight. When he apologized, Edwin, he did it again when he isolated her, when he convinced her she was lucky he stayed at court, gave her custody. But fear doesn't leave with a judge's signature. It lingers in escalator reflections, in unexpected footsteps, in every deep male voice behind her in line. Still, Maya is kenned when a teenage girl tries on a dress and whispers she can't afford it for prom. Maya quietly applies an employee discount that doesn't technically exist when a tired single father fumbles with gift options. Maya wraps a scarf and tells him she'll love it. You chose it. Small Kinda says because she remembers what it feels like when no one steps in. And then comes the day everything changes. It's a Thursday afternoon. Sales are slow. The mall is quiet. A few scattered shoppers drift past like ghosts of its former glory. Maya steps out from the boutique carrying a box of new inventory Mrs. Alvarez ordered on clearance efforts. When she hears it, Maya, her body freezes before her brain catches up that voice. Low, controlled, familiar. Daniel steps out from behind a pillar near the escalators. Looks the same, well-groomed, calm. The version of himself he shows the world. You can't be here, Maya says, voice trembling. I just want to talk. Her heart pounds. Please leave. But he's already stepping closer. Meanwhile, on the second floor balcony, a tall man in a tailored navy coat is observing the mall through a different lens. Alexander Reed, founder and CEO of a global cybersecurity empire worth billions, raised by a single mother, haunted by the sister He couldn't protect this here incognito. Evaluating the property for acquisition, his company is considering buying the mall and converting it into a mixed-use tech campusto in its number square footage. Renovation costs community incentive as until he hears raised voices below. Looks down, sees a woman backing away. He sees a man advancing. Sees something in her posture, fear not argument. Drana fear, and then it happens. Daniel grabs her. Reese pulls back, his hand shoots up and clamps around her throat, gasps ripple. Through the air, shoppers freeze. Samin lifts a phone in 01. Moves Maya's vision brush. Thinks of Eliand in that suspended second. Just before panic steals her breath. A voice cuts through the silence. Let her go. Alexander is already moving. Before we continue with this incredible journey, I spent countless hours researching and crafting this story to bring you something truly meaningful. If stories like this touch your heart and you want to see more acts of kindness that restore faith in humanity, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It means the world to me and helps these important stories reach others who need to hear them. No? Let's see what happens next.
Let her go. Alexander's voice isn't loud. It doesn't need to bait. Carries authority, the kind built in boardrooms and crisis briefings. Not playground fights, the kind that expects to be obeyed. Daniel turns. Still gripping Maya's throat, his expression shifts from rage to irritation. This doesn't concern you, he says calmly. Too calmly, Maya's feet barely touch the ground. Alexander doesn't hesitate, steps forward. Closes the distance and with controlled force grips Daniel's wrist. Twisting just enough to break his hold, Maya stumbles backward, coughing. Collapsing to her knees, the mall goes silent. Security finally rushes in. To guards who had frozen just seconds too long, Daniel adjusts his jacket like nothing happened. She's my wife, ex-wife, Maya gasps, clutching her throat, and you're violating a restraining order. Alexander says Evan lithe words land like a gavel. Police are called. Shoppers begin whispering. Phones are lowered, but while security detains Daniel, Alexander does something unexpected. Kneels knit above her, beside her. Can you breathe? He asks softly. Maya nods, though tears blur her vision. She hates crying in public, hates appearing weak, hates that Eli isn't here. But what if he had been? I'm fine, she whispers. Automatical. Yelyandern doesn't argue. He simply removes his coat and drapes it gently over her shoulders. A small gesture, but grounding. Take your time. She looks at him, then really looks at the tailored suit, not the watch, not the posture of power. His eyes, they aren't curious, they're furious, but not at Herat. What just happened? At Police arrive. Daniel protests, claims misunderstanding. Claims she's unstable. Alexander Stache gives a statement, provides his name without hesitation when one of the officers recognizes him, Mr. Reed. The whispers return. Maya stiffens. Of course, he's someone important. Of course, today had to include humiliation layered on top of assault. She pulls the coat tighter around her and tries to stand. Alexander offers a hand, hesitates, then takes either grip is firm. Despite the tremble, thank you, she says. Quietly, not breathless admiration, not deep and densely great indignity that surprises him most. People either fawn or recoil when they realize who he is. Does neither. What's your name? He asks Maya. He nods once. Maya, do you have somewhere safe to go tonight? Her chin lifts slightly. I always have somewhere safe. There it is. Pedestrian, not denial. Resolve. I didn't mean to imply you didn't, he says carefully. I just want to make sure. The paramedic approaches, suggesting she get checked out. She refuses at first. Hospital bills. Alexander notices. I'll cover it, he says quietly. Her eyes flash. I don't need charity. It's not charity, he replies. It's accountability. I stepped in. I'm making sure it's handled fully. She studies him as not posturing. He's not patronizing, as steady. Finally, she agrees to a basic examination on City as they wait. He glances toward the boutique storefront behind her. You work there? Yes, you care about it. She frowns. Of course. You were carrying inventory when he approached you. She's surprised. He noticed. I tried to keep the place alive, she says. It deserves better than what this mall's become. Something shifts in him because that's exactly why he's here, to decide whether this place deserves saving. At a laughter, Daniel is taken away in cuffs for violating the restraining order. The crowd disperses, the mall returns to its quiet humbit, something feels different. Alexander walks with Maya back toward Leela's closet. Mrs. Alvarez rushes out, distraught. Mia, are you okay? Maya nods. I'm okay. Alexander watches the exchange. Family isn't always blood. He realizes inside the boutique. Racks are arranged thoughtfully despite limited inventory. Clearance tags are hidden discreetly. There's care here. Who styles the front displays? He asks. Maya hesitates. I do. He walks slowly around the shop. You've increased foot traffic. She blinks. Excuse me. I've been observing this mall for 2 weeks. This store performs above average compared to adjacent units. The visual merchandising is strategic. She stares at him. I just make it look nice. No. He says, you create aspiration on a budget. No one has ever described her work like that. Ms. Alvarez beams. I tell her she has an eye. Alexander turns to Maya. Would you ever consider expanding? She almost laughs. With what capital? Hypothetically. She crosses her arms, defensive but curious. Hypothetically, I'd create a section for women, starting over affordable. Polished interviews, first dates, court appearances. Her voice softens. Moments that matter. The room goes quiet. Alexander feels something hit his chest. His sister once stood outside a courthouse wearing a dress too big for her, trying to look confident while leaving a marriage that nearly destroyed her. Clears his throat. I'm considering acquiring this property, he says. Ms. Alvarez gasps. Maya's expression hardens. To turn it into luxury condos? No. He replies. To redevelop it into a mixed-use community space, retail, offices, child care, legal clinics. Legal clinics? She asks sharply. For people who need affordable counsel. Her breath catches. Why? He pouts. Honesty wins because I didn't step in soon enough. Once before. Silence for the first time. She sees vulnerability in him. Not billionaire brother. I'm sorry, she says. Soft life nods on Seth, and he does something unexpected. Reaches into his pocket and removes a simple business card. No gold embossing, just a number. This isn't charity, he says again. It's opportunity if you're willing to pitch a formal expansion proposal for this boutique under the redevelopment plan. I'll personally review it. She looks at the card like it might disappear. I don't have an MBA. You have lived experience and vision. Mrs. Alvarez grips Maya's hand. Take it. Maya swallows. I won't accept a handout. I wouldn't offer one a beat. Then I'll earn it, she says. Smiles. Small, genuine. I expect nothing less. As he leaves, he pauses near the escalator where it all happened. Security guards are whispering. Calls them over. What training do you have in domestic violence intervention? He asks calmly. The exchange glances. Basic protocol, sir. That's not enough. His next move begins quietly. That afternoon, he calls his legal team and instructs them to draft a community safety initiative proposal tied to the redevelopment policy. Back inside the boutique, Maya stares at the business card again. Hope is dangerous, but so is staying. Smalls folds it carefully and places it in her pocket. For Elifer, herself, for the version of her who refuses to be cornered. Again, what would you do if you discovered someone with incredible talent living in such difficult circumstances? Let me know your thoughts below. I read every comment. The business card sits on Maya's kitchen counter for 3 days. 3 days of staring at it while stirring macaroni. 3 days of almost dialing the number. 3 days of telling herself not to be foolish. Mom, Eli asks one evening, swinging his legs at the small table, why do you keep looking at that card like it's going to talk? She smiles faintly. Maybe I'm waiting to see if it will on the 4th morning. Before doubt can settle in again, she expects an assistant, a receptionist, a maze of corporate distancing. Instead, Alexander answers on the 2nd ring. Read. There's a pause. It's Maya. His tone shifts instantly softer. I'm glad you called. No surprise, no impatience. I don't know how to write a proposal, she says honestly. Good, he replies. Blinks. Good. I don't want corporate language. I want your vision. That's how it begins. Knit with contracts with conversation. Over the next few weeks, Alexander visits the mall frequently under the guise of property assessment, but most of those visits end inside Leela's closet. Watches Maya interact with customers, sees how she remembers sizes, how she adjusts hemlines, how she kneels to talk eye level with shy teenage girls. Notices something else too. She never bad-mouths Daniel in front of anyone, even when a regular customer whispers I heard what happened, she simply says. We're focusing on moving forward. One afternoon, he arrives to find her sitting on the floor beside a woman in her 40s who is crying quiet. Live woman is clutching a blouse. I have a custody hearing tomorrow. The woman whispers, I can't afford this. Maya doesn't hesitate, removes the tag. It's on loan. She says gently, bring it back. After Alexander stands unseen near the doorway. This isn't performance. This is who she is when no one important is watching. Later, he asks, how many times have you done that? She shrugs. Enough, and if they don't return it. They usually do, and if they don't. She smiles. Then they probably needed it more than I did. That sentence stays with him. Redevelopment plans begin to take shape. Alexander organizes community listening sessions. Instead of announcing a corporate takeover, he invites small business owners, security staff, local parents. Maya speaks at one of them. Her voice shakes at first bit. She steadies. This mall doesn't need luxury. She says it needs dignity, affordable leases, child care for employees, security that understands trauma. People nod. Me own claps. Alexander watches from the back. She's not just surviving anymore, she's letting Gelly starts noticing changes. An evening, Alexander visits the boutique while Eli is there doing homework in the corner. You're tall, Eli says bluntly. Alexander laughs. I get that a lot. Are you the guy who helped my mom? A beat. Yes. Eli studies him carefully. Thank you, he says, serious beyond his years. Alexander feels something tighten in his chest. You take care of her, Eli adds. I intend to. Alexander replies quietly. Maya overhears and looks up. There's trust. They're now cautious but real. Just when momentum builds, it fractures. Daniel is released on bail and he's angry. The first sign is subtly car parked across from Maya's apartment for too long. Then a voicemail. You think you're untouchable now. Her hands shake as she deletes it. Doesn't tell Alexander at first. She doesn't want to look dependent, but the fear creeps back in. Then comes the real blow. A legal notice arrives. Daniel is petitioning for reconsideration of custody, claiming unstable external influences, referencing her connection to a powerful billionaire as manipulative and unsafe for the child. Maya feels like the floor dispersal. Her progress. Her Korriga 3 attends calls Alexander. That night not composite steady scared. I shouldn't have involved you, she says. He's twisting it. Alexander's voice is calm but firm. You didn't involve me. I stepped in. I can't lose. Eli, you won't. But for the first time, doubt flickers and his own Mindis legal team warned him. If this becomes a media story, it could complicate acquisition negotiations. Board members suggest distancing himself. Phone even says, this is becoming personal. It is personnel. Fates the problem. Remembers sitting outside a courtroom years ago while his sister trembled beside him. Her ex-husband smirking. Didn't have the power then that he has now. This time is different still. Doubt whispers, is he helping her or escalating the situation? Maya pulls back. Slight Leish stops attending planning meetings, avoids extended conversation. Zone afternoon, Alexander finds her alone in the boutique stockroom. You're retreating, he says gently. I have to think about my son. So do I, he replies before he can stop himself. She looks up, exhales. I failed someone once. I won't fail you. Silence fills the small room between hanging garments. You don't owe me that, she says. No, he agrees, but I owe myself. That's when she realizes something profound isn't rescuing her, he's redeeming himself. And maybe she's not the only one being saved. Herethi custody hearing looms. Daniel hires an aggressive attorney. Rumors begin circulating online after a local blogger posts photos of the mall incident. The lines hint at scandal. Maya feels exposed all over again. What if they're right? She whispers one night to Mrs. Alvarez, what if this is too biggie? Mrs. Alvarez cups her face. Kindness isn't scandal, fear is. Alexander makes a decision, not quiet, not strategic. Bold publicly announces the mall community safety initiative. Free legal clinics, insight, child care, domestic violence intervention training for all staff. Attaches his name to it fully. If Daniel wants to claim influence, then let it be influence that protects hundreds of women, not just one. Board pushes back, stands firm. Profit without purpose is failure, he tells the Monde. For the first time in years, he feels aligned with something deeper than Quarterly reports Maya receives the news while watching the press conference online. Tears stream down her face, not because she feels saved, but because she feels seen. He didn't step back, stepped forward, and now the real battle begins. The courtroom is colder than Maya remembers it. Physically, emotionally sits at the opposite table, polished and composed. As if the mall incident were a misunderstanding instead of a crime, his attorney flips through papers confidently. Maya's hands tremble under the table. Alexander sits behind her, not beside her attorney, not at the front, but in the gallery support and control before the hearing begins. He leans forward slightly. No matter what happens today, he says quietly, "You're not alone." She nods without turning around for the first time. She believes it. Daniel's lawyer paints a picture since associating with Mr. Reed. Ms. Thompson has been involved in media attention, corporate interests, and unstable public exposure. Maya's stomach twists, but then her attorney Stanch presents evidence of the restraining order violation. Security footage, witness statements, the police report. Then he introduces something unexpected: letters of them from boutique customers, from mall employees, from women Maya quietly helped over the years. And letter reads, "When I had nowhere to go after leaving my husband, Maya gave me a jacket for my job interview and told me I deserved a second chance. She didn't know I was sleeping in my car." Another says, "She never asked for credit. She just showed up." Daniel's composure cracks. Slight libus. This narrative, it doesn't fit his version of her finale. The judge speaks. Custody remains solely with Maya. Supervised visitation only. Extended restraining or death. Gavel falls. Maya exhales a breath she feels like she's been holding for years. Alexander doesn't clap, doesn't celebrate, simply closes his eyes briefly. This time, someone was protected, but he isn't finished. Within weeks, construction begins in vacant mall spaces, not luxury boutiques, but practical Hopia legal aid office staffed twice a week, a subsidized child care center for working parents, security training workshops led by domestic violence experts. Alexander personally funds the first unit as a publicity stunt, but as infrastructure. And then something remarkable happens. Other local business leaders step forward. A restaurant owner donates meals for court days. A retired teacher volunteers at the child care center. A construction company reduces renovation costs. Kindness multiplies. Meanwhile, Maya works relentlessly on her expansion proposal. From desperation, any more from purpose. Stays up late sketching designs labeled "interview ready." Fresh start. Court confidence when she presents her plan to Alexander and a small advisory board. She stands straighter than ever before. "I don't want sympathy, funding," she says clearly. "I want partnership, affordable lease terms, shared marketing, community engagement." Alexander watches her command the room. This is no longer the woman gasping. On the floor near the escalatorthus is a leader. Board votes anonymous. Lila's closet will expand into a larger renovated unit with a dedicated new beginnings section curated by Mayamers. Alvarez cries opally, "You saved my store." She whispers. Maya shakes her head. "We saved each other." Opening day arrives 6 months later. Once empty corridor now glows with fresh paint and new lighting. Child care center. Laughter echoes softly. Nearby a ribbon stretches across the entrance of the expanded boutique. A crowd gathers. Smothers teens, business owners, security guards who once froze but now stand confidently trained. Alexander steps forward to speak, but instead of a corporate speech, he says something simple: "This space exists because one woman refused to stay silent." He steps as Aden hands the microphone to Maya. Her hands don't shake this time. "This store is for anyone who's ever felt small," she says, "for anyone rebuilding, for anyone who needs to see themselves as worthy." Again applause. Swelsely runs up and hugs her leg. "Is today a good day?" he asks. Kneels, tears shining in her eyes. "Today is a very good day." They cut the ribbon together. Mince Pasales grows steadily, but something more powerful grows to confidence. And begin sharing stories openly at the legal clinic waiting room. Child care co-op becomes a network of support. Mall, once dying, becomes a model for community-centered redevelopments. Outlets cover it, but this time The narrative isn't scandal, it's innovation. Alexander's company benefits. Yes, but what fulfills him isn't the profit margins, it's the afternoons he occasionally spends reading to children at the co-op. It's the quiet thank you notes left anonymously in his efficient evening. He stands alone near the escalator where everything changed, remembers the first moment he saw her, lifted off the ground, fighting for breath, and now he hears laughter echoing through the corridor. He sees vibrant storefront, he sees leafy Onier Ladder Mall hosts its first second chance fair. Local employers set up booths. Legal experts offer free consultations. Stylists volunteer inside Leela's closet. Maya moves through the crowd confidently. Clipboard in hand, spots a young woman near the escalator. Pale, nervous, clutching a tote bag to tight. Live woman's eyes dart around like prey scanning for predators. Maya recognizes that look. She approaches gently. Hi, she says softly. First time here. The woman nods. I'm not sure I belong. Maya smiles. I know exactly how that feels. She guides her into the boutique, within her a blazer, helps her adjust the sleeves. You deserve to take up space, Maya says across the hall. Alexander watches quietly, not stepping in it, leading, just observing the ripple. Because now she is the one stepping forward, and that's the real transformation. Not that a billionaire saved a struggling mother, but that one act of courage ignited a chain reaction of protection, dignity, and opportunity. 2 years later, the mall no longer echoes, it hums it with the frantic consumer rush of the early 2000s, but with something steadier. Purposeless Closet has expanded again, not into luxury, but into mentorship. Every quarter, Maya hires to women referred through the legal clinic or community partners. They receive retail training, styling experience, and something harder to quantify, belief. New Beginnings collection now partners with local designers who donate surplus fabrics. What started as one curated rack is now an entire section, complete with a wall where women pin handwritten notes after job interviews, court victories, and first paychecks. A note reads, I walked in here shaking, I walked out standing tall. The child care center has a waiting list, not because it's exclusive, but because its trusted parents volunteer hours when they can. A retired accountant now teaches financial literacy workshops on Wednesday nights in a space that used to be an abandoned shoe store. A security at the mall, fully trained in trauma-informed response. Incidents are handled swiftly, respectfully, and without spectacling. To Alexander, he still runs his cybersecurity company, still closes deals, still sits at long conference tables under bright city lights. But once a week, without fail, he visits the mall. Sometimes he brings books for the kids, sometimes he just walks through quietly. Never again refers to it as the property, he calls it the community. His board once questioned whether this project was worth the investment. No other cities are asking how to replicate the model, but the most meaningful change doesn't show up in annual reports, it shows up in Alex 8 now confident Kent tells his classmates, my mom helps people start over. And when someone asks what Alexander does, Eli shrugs, he helps my mom help people. That's Legacy's story isn't about wealth rescuing poverty, it isn't about a billionaire playing hero, it's about a moment, a single decision, a choice to step forward instead of freeze. Most people in that mall had phones in their hands. In person used his voice, and one woman, who had every reason to stay small and silent, chose instead to rebuild not just her life, but space for others to do the same. Kindness is rarely dramatized, it's often inconvenient, it sometimes invites criticism, but when paired with courage, it becomes transformative. His journey reminds us that surviving is only the beginning, thriving is possibly giving back. That's power. Alexander's journey reminds us that privilege isn't measured by wealth, it's measured by responsibility. When we see harm, we have a choice. When we see potential, we have a choice. When we see someone struggling quietly, we have a choice, and one choice can ripple further than we ever imagined. Stories like this remind us that extraordinary kindness exists all around. Yusuf, this touched your heart? Please like this video. It helps more people discover these inspiring stories. Subscribe for more tales of human kindness that restore faith in humanity, and most importantly, Look for opportunities in your own life to be someone's unexpected blessing. What act of kindness will you perform this week? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and remember, you have the power to change someone's entire world.